Welcome to Down Under Saddle Supply in beautiful Denver, Colorado. Here in our store, you'll find everything you need to ride Australian style. In the next chapters of this video, you'll learn how to decide what products are right for you and your horse. We'll also show you how to measure your horse so that your saddle and tack work properly. There are a lot of choices, so be sure to look through our catalog or website to see everything that's available. Australian style saddles are made primarily in Australia and India. Saddles made in Australia range in price from about $1,400 right on up to several $1,000s. Sounds like a lot of money, but an Australian-made saddle is unsurpassed in the quality of its materials and construction. In Australia, it takes 5 years of apprenticeship to become a saddler. Saddle makers are considered to be true craftsmen and artists, and awards are given to saddlers for superior design and construction. When you purchase a saddle made by Sid Hill & Sons or Toowoomba Saddlery, you can be sure that you're buying the absolute best materials and workmanship available. There are, however, less expensive alternatives. Indian-made versions of Australian saddles can represent excellent value for the money if you're very careful with your selection. Our carefully selected and designed Indian-made saddles have been selling successfully around the world for more than 20 years and have proven themselves an excellent value. We work very closely with the same manufacturers year after year. Kimberly Series and Down Under Collection saddles are made to our design and must meet our strict specifications for materials and quality. In fact, they are the best-selling, most durable collection of Indian-made saddles in the world. So whether you pay $300 or $3,000 for your saddle from Down Under Saddle Supply, you can be sure that you're getting the very best value for your money. Let's look at the components of an Australian saddle so that we're all talking the same language. At the very front is the chamber. The angle and the shape of the chamber are critical in determining the fit of the saddle on the horse. This is called a gullet in a Western saddle. At the front and the top of the saddle is the pommel, called the swell on a Western saddle. Here we have a D-ring, which is a brass ring in the shape of a D that's used to attach items to the saddle. Directly behind the D-ring is a bridge staple, a very sturdy attachment piece that you can use to attach a breast collar. This is the pulley or the knee pad of the saddle and is the single most distinguishing feature of an Australian saddle. Here we have a fall-down staple. This can be used to tie items onto the front of the saddle in conjunction with the bridge staple or D-ring, or you can use it to tie a seat saver down. This is the stirrup bar, a solid steel bar that's used to attach the stirrup leathers. The stirrup leathers hang from the stirrup bar like this, and at the end of the stirrup leathers you have your stirrups, which of course is what you put your feet through. This is the top flap of the saddle, and directly underneath the top flap we have the sweat flap, so named because it goes directly against the horse. This is a billet strap, which is part of the girthing system, sewn directly to the saddle. And next to that we have our overgirth. The overgirth slides up through the overgirth slot, across the top of the saddle, and through the overgirth slot on the other side. This is the seat of the saddle, what you sit on. And at the very back we have the cantle. On the underside of the saddle, we have the panels. The panels extend from the very front to the very back of the saddle, and this is the cushion part of the saddle that sits directly against the horse. At the back here we have a crupper bar, a solid steel piece that's used to attach a crupper. There are three basic types of panels on Australian saddles: surge panels, fleece panels, and closed cell foam panels. First, let's talk about surge panels. The surge panel is made of tightly woven wool stuffed with a cushioning material. Most modern saddles are stuffed with wool, acrylic, or a combination of the two. Sid Hill saddles, like this one, are stuffed with an acrylic material that conforms nicely to the shape of the horse's back, but that does not pack down hard. Down Under and Kimberly surge panels are stuffed with a combination of wool and acrylic. We call this cladding. There are several benefits to surge panels. First, the stuffing in a surge panel gives plenty of cushioning for the horse. As we all know, a comfortable horse will provide a much better ride. Second, the stuffing will conform to the shape of the horse's back with use, giving a custom fit. That's why Australian panels are often called self-adjusting. The time it takes to conform to the horse's back depends on how often you ride and the type of riding. It can take anywhere from several weeks to several months. Finally, the stuffing in a surge panel can be fluffed or moved around as necessary using a tool called a saddle awl. The saddle awl looks something like an ice pick. The saddle awl can be inserted straight through the surge without hurting the material a bit. So to move or fluff, you just push it in, and then putting your finger down against the surge, pivot directly at the surge to make sure that you don't put any pressure against the surge. That can actually tear it. This can't be done on an English saddle because the panels are covered with leather. On a Western saddle, there's no stuffing at all to be adjusted. In addition, you can add stuffing as necessary to these panels if you need to. Surge line panels work well on horses with medium to high withers. The self-adjusting qualities of this type of panel are maximized when used on just one horse. If a horse has a relatively short back, this saddle works well because it's more compact than a fleece panel saddle. Fleece panels are similar to the panels found on Western saddles. On an Australian saddle, they can be made with sheepskin fleece, an acrylic fleece, or wool felt underside. Because of their larger contact area, fleece or wool felt line panels work well on horses with medium to low withers and wide backs. This type of panel also works well if the saddle is to be used on multiple horses, because it doesn't conform to the shape of any one horse's back. Fleece panels also do not take long to break in. In general, any horse that can take a Western saddle can also take a fleece panel Australian saddle. The last variation on the underside of an Australian saddle is the closed cell foam panel. Closed cell foam is a very strong material and should maintain its cushioning ability for years. It cannot, however, be auled. This type of panel is usually found on saddles where close contact with the horse is desired, such as endurance or other close contact saddles. The cushioning is not nearly as thick as a surge panel. Saddles with closed cell foam panels can work well with most horses. They are especially useful on very short back and gaited horses, where the more compact the saddle is, the better. Keep in mind that these are just guidelines. Many times, any of these panels will work on your horse. The best way to determine fitment is to send us a wither tracing. The saddle tree is a structure on which the rest of the saddle is built. Australian saddles are typically built on wood and steel trees, fiberglass trees, or polyurethane trees. The wood and steel tree provides an excellent ride through its suspended seating system. The tree is covered with a webbing material similar to seatbelt material, then padding, then leather. It's the give in the middle of this tree that gives the excellent ride in an Australian saddle. This type of tree also allows us to adjust it to fit a specific horse. This adjustment can only be made by a trained professional. Kimberly Series saddles and Down Under Collection saddles are all made with wood and steel trees. Polyurethane trees are extremely strong and lightweight. Because they're manufactured in a mold, it's possible to make saddles with a much higher degree of precision, since the tree is exactly the same time after time. Although a polyurethane tree is not adjustable, it can be made in various widths to suit most horses. Polyurethane trees are weatherproof and chemical resistant, making them extremely durable. Saddles made by Sid Hill & Sons use this type of tree. The shape of the saddle tree is critical to fitment for the horse. If the angle of the chamber is too narrow or too wide, it can cause pain to the horse or perhaps even behavioral problems. If you're accustomed to Western saddles, here's a quick tip for converting the tree size of a Western saddle to the chamber width of an Australian saddle. A Western quarter horse bar tree is roughly equivalent to a narrow Australian tree. A semi-quarter horse bar tree equates to a medium Australian tree. And a full quarter horse bar tree equates to a wide Australian tree. To get a better fit for your horse, We prefer that you fax or mail us a wither tracing before we send out a saddle. This will allow us to adjust the shape of the saddle to match your wither tracing. We'll show you how to take a wither tracing later on in this video. Down Under Saddle Supply carries over 30 different styles of saddles, many of them available either with or without horn. With this many choices, how do you decide which saddle is right for you? When we recommend a saddle to a customer, we take into account the following issues. First, what type of riding is involved? Will the rider be doing trail riding, ranch work, endurance riding, or a combination? Is the terrain flat or steep? How often does the rider ride, and what's the normal length of the rides? Second, what type of horse is involved? Are the withers high, normal, or low? Is the horse's back short? Is the horse's back wide? Will the saddle be used on more than one horse? Third, does the rider have any special needs? Does the rider need a lightweight saddle? Does the rider need extra security? Will the rider be doing any roping? And last, but certainly not least, is the rider working within a budget, and who isn't? Once we have the answers to these questions, we can talk about the different styles of Australian saddle. There are 4 basic styles: stock, close contact, endurance, and crossover or crossbreed. The stock saddle is the original Australian saddle. It was designed to be rugged and comfortable for long hours of cattle and ranch work. It can have either surge or fleece panels. This type of saddle is deep-seated, very secure, and very comfortable. It tends to be the heaviest of the various types of Australian saddles, although at 20 to 25 pounds it's still much lighter than the typical Western saddle. In addition to being a great working saddle, many people consider the stock saddle to be the ultimate trail saddle. The close contact saddle is similar to the stock saddle, but it's designed to sit the rider closer to the horse. This saddle can have either surge or fleece panels. It is sort of the sports car of Australian saddles. Still deep-seated, secure, and comfortable, this saddle gives the rider a better feel for the horse. It's usually somewhat lighter than a stock saddle, in the 18 to 22 pound range. This saddle is ideal for horse sports like polo cross and also makes a great trail saddle. The endurance saddle is specifically designed for the sport of endurance riding, where riders compete over very long distances. The emphasis on this type of saddle is lightweight and compact construction. Endurance riders are often in a posting or 2-point stance. As a result, the pulleys tend to be lower on the flaps, longer, and not as tall as the pulleys on other types of Australian saddles. The panels on endurance saddles are close contact, closed cell foam panels, or fleece, in order to save weight and sit the rider as close to the horse as possible. Many endurance saddles are girth English style, without the traditional Australian pull-up strap. The seat is not usually as deep as other Australian saddles, but is still very comfortable. Many riders like to use endurance saddles for general trail riding due to their light weight. Our endurance saddles range in weight from 13 to 18 pounds without fittings. The last of the types of Australian saddles is the one most recently designed. It has features normally found on Australian saddles and features normally found on Western saddles, hence the crossover or crossbreed designation. From the Australian saddle comes pulleys, lightweight, and relatively compact size. From the Western saddle comes swinging fenders, extended skirts, and fleece panels. This type of saddle most often girths Western style, although some models can be girthed Australian style. For riders who like the styling and girthing of a Western saddle, but the comfort, security, and weight of an Aussie saddle, this is the ideal choice. This is currently the popular style in Australia. But what about a horn? A true Australian saddle doesn't have a horn, because the Australian style of handling cattle doesn't require one. But many Americans prefer a horn, and we're happy to accommodate. The horn on all Sid Hill and Toowoomba series saddles is definitely up to the task. The horn on Kimberley series and Down Under collection saddles is what's known as a trail horn. It's great for hanging onto, for putting a canteen over, or for supporting a horn saddlebag, but we don't recommend that you rope with it. Any horn on a Sid Hill saddle is a true roping horn. The steel horn is molded right into the tree during the manufacturing process. Make sure to use a back cinch if you plan on doing any roping. This will help keep the back end of the saddle down when roping pressure is applied to the front of the saddle. If you have a specific need for a horn, or just like the looks, all Kimberly Series and Down Under Collection saddles are available with a horn. Several Sid Hill and Toowoomba saddles are also available with a horn. The advantage to a saddle without a horn is that it's lighter weight, it costs less than a comparable saddle with a horn, and there's nothing to get in the way on those steep uphill trails. If you're worried about not having something to hang on to, no worries. Just attach a utility strap from the bridge staple to the bridge staple, or many riders just prefer to hold on to the pommel right there. So horn or no horn, an Australian saddle can definitely meet your needs. So how do we measure an Australian saddle? The Australian saddle measurement is roughly equivalent to an English saddle measurement. So a 16-inch Australian saddle will be about the same as a 16-inch English saddle. We measure from the front of the pommel at the stitching right here to the front edge of the top of the cantle. This is a 17-inch saddle. On a Western saddle, we measure from the base of the horn to the top of the cantle. This is about 15 inches. So a Western saddle measurement is about 2 inches less than an Australian saddle measurement. We have a handy size guide in the quick reference section of the DVD that will help you pick out the right size saddle for you. But keep in mind that this is just a guideline. The most important fitment feature is the distance between your thigh and the pulley in a normal riding condition. You want about a hand's width, or 1/4 to 1 inch, of clearance between your thigh and the pulley. The idea is you want the pulley to be far enough away to where it doesn't rub on your thigh while you're riding, but close enough to where it comes into contact quickly if you need it. We measure our girths from the end of the buckle to the end of the buckle. If you're not sure what size girth you need, all you have to do is get a heart girth measurement on your horse. We want a measurement of the entire circumference of the horse right where the girth will be. Right about there. Now, to get the right size saddle for your horse, as far as the chamber width goes, you just need a piece of wire like this. A coat hanger will work just fine. And we're going to bend the wire over the top of the horse's withers right in line with the back edge of his leg right there. And this is about where the front of the saddle is going to sit. You take the wire up, you bend it across the top, and there we have the angle of the front of the saddle. Then all you have to do is take this and trace it on an 8.5 11 by 11 sheet of paper. All we need is as much as will fit on the 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper. If you have a particularly difficult horse to fit, then you can send us 2 additional wither tracings. One will be 10 inches back from the first, and the second another 10 inches back from that. Sounds simple, but we've successfully fit thousands of saddles using this method. And if you have any questions about the process, the friendly staff at Down Under Saddle Supply is just a phone call or an email away. We want to work with you to get the best fit for your horse so you get the most out of your Australian saddle. Now let's talk about your girthing options. Down Under carries a wide variety of Australian-style girths with a pull-up strap. The pull-up strap is this sturdy leather strap that's attached to the girth. This is what goes through the D-ring on your overgirth. It just goes right up through the D-ring, then back through the buckle on the girth. If you happen to have a saddle that has a billet strap on this side instead of a D-ring, that's no problem. All you have to do is take this billet strap and cut it off very close to the buckle. You can adapt any of our girths this way. Fleece girths are made with canvas and leather with a soft fleece underside. This is very gentle on the horse and easy to take care of. Just wash with warm water and a mild detergent like Kookaburra Wool Wash. Neoprene girths are made of the same material that are used in diving wetsuits. This grippy substance makes it ideal for using when you have slippage problems. It will help keep the saddle from sliding forward to back or side to side. This girth is extremely easy to take care of. Just wash with soap and water. Felt girths are preferred by riders who want a natural material next to their horse. The wool felt will wick moisture away from the horse, and it's an ideal girth to use for schooling your horse or when giving him a tough workout. Cord girths have leather ends and a soft cord material in the middle. The cord material can be made of cotton, synthetic, or molon, a combination of wool and synthetic material. This type of girth is extremely breathable and very versatile. It can be used for slippage problems, for schooling, or general trail riding. One unique product that we have is the Toowoomba fire hose girth. This is made from the same type of material used in fire hoses. It has a thick padded center and is extremely durable. This type of girth will last much longer than most other types of girths. What about a rear or flank cinch? You'll notice that most Australian saddles don't have a rear cinch ring. That's because Australian saddles are more compact than a Western saddle, and because the girth is closer to the center of gravity. Under normal riding conditions, most people don't need a rear cinch. However, some of our saddles, especially the ones with horns, do have a rear cinch ring. This rear cinch ring can be used to attach heavy items or if you're doing actual roping operations. As good as we think the Australian girthing system is, some folks just prefer Western rigging. The solution is a Bates rig. The Bates rig was originally designed in Australia and is sometimes marketed in the United States as a tackleberry or rapid release. In the Bates system, the Australian style overgirth is replaced with a special Bates overgirth that has Western D's on both sides. The tackleberry quick release buckle makes it easy to girth and ungirth the horse quickly, and the leverage system makes it much easier to girth the saddle tighter, reducing slippage problems. The Australian saddle typically doesn't need a thick pad. The Australian saddle pad is normally only 1/4 of an inch thick when compressed. This is because of the ample padding already on the underside of an Australian saddle. The traditional Australian pad is a rectangular pad. Rectangular pads have the benefit of allowing part of the sweat flap to touch your horse. This gives you closer contact with your horse and helps stabilize the saddle. Another advantage of using a rectangular pad is that when you attach saddlebags to your saddle, the bags are protected from your horse and vice versa. Shape saddle pads follow the outline of an Australian saddle and are designed to keep the saddle flap off the horse. One of the advantages of a shape pad is that there's not as much excess fabric on your horse's back. Shape pads will also help keep sweat and dirt off both flaps of the saddle. This particular saddle pad has a strap to slip your sweat flap through. This helps keep the saddle pad and saddle together. An endurance pad is usually used with a close contact saddle. Endurance pads are smaller than a regular pad and cover less of the saddle underneath the horse, just enough to cover the contact area of the panels. Endurance pads also tend to be a bit thicker than the regular Australian saddle pad due to there being less padding on close contact endurance saddles. A lifter pad is used to correct the fitment of the saddle on the horse. This type of pad would be used when the saddle is too wide for the horse or where the withers are exceptionally narrow. We call this pad our correct-a-pad. It comes with a pocket in the wither section of the pad that has removable wool felt pads to lift the saddle pommel up. Another variation on saddle pads are pads that have attached bags. These can be either shaped or rectangular. Neoprene pads are made of the same material as diving wetsuits. Neoprene pads can work well to reduce slippage issues. Saddle pads can be made of a variety of materials. They can be wool felt, wool fleece, synthetic fleece, cotton, or neoprene. We highly recommend the wool felt or wool fleece style of pads because they do the best job of absorbing your horse's sweat. The Aussie bridle has the same basic principles as the Western bridle, except how the bit is attached. Australian bridles use buckles to hold the bit to the bridle. It's easier to use than latigo lace, the Chicago screw, or the small attachment area on English bridles. The Barcoo bridle is the simplest bridle of the three Australian styles. It has a brow band, a throat latch, and a bit-to-bit attachment. The extended head Barcoo bridle is similar to the Barcoo bridle, but it has an extended headpiece that goes behind the horse's ears. This is designed so that the throat latch does not fit across the horse's jaw, but comes down behind the jaw. This system also gives the horse's head better support. The halter bridle, like the name implies, is a combination of a bridle and a halter. It has a nose band, brow band, throat attachment area, and a strap from the nose band to the throat band. There are D-rings attached just below the brow band area where the cheek straps that hold the bit can be snapped on and off. As you can see, the cheek straps can be adjusted to the appropriate length to hold the bit in place. We carry two different types of halter bridles. One is a lightweight halter bridle and the other is a heavy-duty halter bridle. Saddlebags are a truly functional accessory for your Australian saddle. Whether you're going out for an hour or for a week, your Australian saddle can handle it. Here we have a traditional leather saddlebag. This attaches to the back of the saddle with the D-rings. If you need to carry more gear, we have a large leather bag. This attaches the same way. We also have a wide assortment of bags made out of nylon. Very tough, very durable. To carry gear at the front of the saddle, here we have a horn bag. Obviously you need a horn to be able to use this type of a bag. And it just goes over the top of the horn like that. To carry more gear at the front of the saddle, we have wither bags. Wither bags go on just at the front like that. A water bottle carrier can be attached either at the front or the back of the saddle. A cantle bag with optional water bottles attaches at the back of the saddle right here. You can attach it to either the D-rings or to the fall-down staples on the back of the cantle if you have those. A really versatile piece of gear is the combo bag. The combo bag also attaches at the back of the saddle, similar to the cantle bag, but it has two side bags and a top bag. It also has D-rings at the back to attach additional items. For those of you that are going out on really long rides, we have the overnighter bag. This large bag also attaches at the back of the saddle, and it has two large capacity side bags along with a large capacity top bag. It also has straps on the top that you can use to tie down your bedroll or your coat. For our hunting enthusiasts, we have a leather rifle scabbard. On an Australian saddle, a rifle scabbard attaches between the top flap and the sweat flap, but on the off side of the saddle. So you can see how truly versatile you can make an Australian saddle with the addition of a saddlebag. When it comes to tack, you want the best for your horse. So treat your horse and yourself to the world's finest sheepskin accessories, made from merino wool of Australia's great outback. These products are easy to attach and easy to clean. Just use warm water and a mild detergent like Kookaburra Wool Wash. The merino bridle and breastplate comforters prevent rubbing on the horse's head, nose, and cheek. The leg comforters, which cover the stirrup leathers, create a nice, soft, cool feeling and prevents pinching or rubbing to your legs. It also prevents rubbing on the saddle flap, keeping your saddle investment looking new. And here's a neat trick. You can turn any girth into a genuine Australian merino wool girth with the use of a girth comforter. This girth comforter easily attaches to any girth and is the ultimate in comfort for your horse. And lastly, try the seat comforters for a fantastic ride. These seat comforters help keep your seat cool and comfortable and also add extra cushioning to your saddle seat. They easily attach to any Australian saddle. At Down Under Saddle Supply, we have everything you need for the ideal Australian riding experience. Browse through our catalog or our website to see a full description of all of our products. Or drop by our store here in Denver. We'd love to see you.